Hello friends, today I wanted to discuss something very important. The role of shame that has when you have an eating disorder, or rather when you know that your relationship with food is not necessarily one that is effective. Now, I would argue that sometimes I've seen some influencers, specifically ones that are more pro that weight is about the move more, eat less camp. I think that they confuse. They say, well, you don't have a relationship with with objects. That when you are eating, that you don't have a relationship. I would argue that you do. The way you behave towards an object is what is in question here, and the emotions of shame. Before I begin, I want to introduce myself, and then I want to give you a definition. So my name is Jessica. I engage in conversations about weight loss, weight-related disease education, and how to achieve weight loss in an affordable way that honors our way of living, all of our way of living. So the way you deal with food and you deal with weight loss will be completely different than I would. And I think that it's important to note that programs or any suggestions, they have to be taken with a grain of salt, including mine. So what is shame? Shame is a painful feeling of humiliation or distress caused by the conscious or wrong or foolish behavior that you think is foolish. Now, that can be very subjective, but when it came to me, I knew that after satiating my hunger, that continuous eating, or the continuous eating when I was lonely, where I couldn't deal with emotions, were bringing shame. Specifically, or closer, when I was a teenager, that was very, very much an issue. I would, and now I'm of course talking about things that from my childhood. So what I used to do when I came home from high school, when let's say I had a difficult day, I would binge on little cup of noodles, and I would just find whatever. And then after that, my parents would come home, and they would cook dinner, and I would eat dinner. Where was the detachment, or rather, why is this a problem? Because if you think about it, you can take it from the perspective of, if you're hungry, you need to eat, you can certainly snack. What I encountered at that time is that feeling of having that, going through a difficult day, because I would have that on difficult days. I would choose different foods when it was a regular day. Does that make sense? So when it was a difficult day, I would go to a focused food that would just make me feel better, which was like my chosen food. And it doesn't have to be one chosen food. So just because I chose cup of noodle, that does, or the noodles that with the ramen thing, yeah, that was that doesn't make them inherently bad. It was because I would have one, and then I would have another one, and I would just eat it. And so where was the detachment? It was when I was now going beyond hunger, and I was just doing it for doing it, like, right, and just to deal. Now, of course, later on, I chose other foods and I would binge on a larger scale as I was growing older. But what I used to feel afterwards would be a lot of shame. Because my family didn't know, my parents certainly didn't know. Um, my my sister, I don't think she knew, and later on, did my husband know? I don't think so. I think I hid it pretty well, except for the fact that, of course, I got to be 270 plus pounds, and aside from that, I wasn't inherited. Now, having said that, I also did exceed in alcohol. So my alcohol intake was pretty high. So there were definitely signs. Now, I think it's important to make shame okay, meaning that sometimes those feelings are valid and we need to take them away in a way, but not say, "Oh, you're silly for thinking this," or "You're silly for feeling shame." I think because you truly, I the I don't know how to describe it. It's like a wave where you just melt into this shame, or you're humiliated because you know that you just ate not because you were hungry, but because you just needed to cope. The emotions were so triggering that you needed to make sure that you're making you feel so much better, and then you say to yourself, "I'll start tomorrow, I'll do better tomorrow," and that is that spiral that continues, that and then like continues in a way where you then say to yourself, "I am just not worthy because I keep doing the same thing over and over again." Believe you me, I did it for 45 years. That's a lot of years. So since I was, I was heavy when I was 10 and a lot heavier when I was 45. So I think it's important to not minimize that feeling of shame, but definitely bring on compassion to ourselves and say, this is a process. This is not, the start tomorrow is always a process, because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter whether you're 270 pounds and you are reducing your binging, or you are 110 pounds and you're reducing your binging. At every point of your life, if you are learning to cope with your feelings and learning to detach that hunger versus I am indulging versus the shame of it, because there's huge difference, then I would say, my goodness, we are advancing. And I do actually see a lot of influence in coming out, being 200, 300 pounds and not really focusing on the weight, not really focusing on deficit, but focusing on just minimizing those bouts of shame, those bouts of humiliation, and what is associated with it, which is binging. Or doing anything else. I'm sure that there's other, I'm not very schooled in all EDs, but the one that I have certainly am. I wish you the very best, and I hope this helped towards our exploration of shame. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend.